Today's episode takes you on a fact-finding mission about principal religious figures who dominated ancient times, as well as mysterious buildings and landscapes that appear to have popped up overnight. We will also explore their spiritual significance and whether these landmarks serve any real purpose. For instance, how were the pyramids and other huge puzzling rock structures built? Stick around for this episode as we attempt to reveal the identities and intentions of the mysterious architects and builders responsible for these monuments. It's impossible to make heads or tails when attempting to comprehend the entire history of planet Earth. The reason here is that Earth has been a prison planet for at least 30,000 years. The group of EBs responsible for this phenomenon had to create a false civilization that included languages, buildings, culture, agriculture, customs, mathematics, moral values, and so forth. However, it took a tremendous amount of effort to establish distorted cultures across the world. The fact that these cultures were forcefully programmed among various societies eventually led to people spotting fallacies and loopholes that didn't make any sense. We will also revisit the God topic, which uncovered the mystery behind Moses' supernatural encounters atop Mount Sinai. Based on the paranormal and grandiose descriptions attributed to God during ancient times, then perhaps an ordinary flashlight would attract awe and be considered a divine tool during that period. The previous episode describing the origins of the Anunnaki shows how different human races perceived Anunnaki as gods, yet they were members of the Domain Expeditionary Force sent on a rescue mission. Our first deity on today's list of topics is Lord Vishnu. Who is Vishnu? The term Vishnu appears approximately 94 times in the Rig Veda. The Vedas were introduced to Earth by the Domain Expeditionary Force Legion 8,200 years ago on the base of the Himalayas mountain. Various historical records state that some human societies already existed in the region. The Aryan people invaded and conquered India, bringing the Vedic hymns to the area. The Aryans learned the Vedic hymns, then memorized and preserved them through oral tradition for 7,000 years before committing the hymns to written form. It's during these 7,000 years that one of the officers from the Domain Expeditionary Force, DEF, was incarnated on Earth as Vishnu. Vishnu came to Earth to fight the religious wars against the old Empire forces. He is an adept and aggressive EB as well as a highly effective officer who has since been reassigned to other duties in the domain. Although Vedas hymns are considered one of the most revered sources of enlightenment conceived by philosophers such as Buddha, Lao Tzu, or Zoroaster, it contains half-truths, lies, and other misguided assumptions about creation. You may ask why. The reason is that each facade operation from the old empire involved teaching the prison inmates languages, religious superstitions, and cultural patterns that are completely different from those they were familiar with prior to serving prison sentences on planet Earth. The mechanism of spiritual enslavement used by the priests of every religion is simple and shares a high degree of similarity. Any philosophic concept that promises a possibility of spiritual freedom or enlightenment, escape from imprisonment and pain of a biological body, can be perverted by the bot's prison guards. This practice has been used repeatedly with great success in every corner of the earth. The teachings or philosophic principles are simplified into ritualistic practices such as prayers, mantras, sacrifices, recitals, and other routines that eventually supplant and replace the original philosophy with meaningless, mechanical motion. These rituals are then incorporated into a body of written or memorized verbal rhetoric, such as a holy book, or a verbal tradition, such as the Vedic hymns. Priests further distort and erase the original philosophy with interpretations or commentary on this material, such as Upanishads. As with all religious mythology and philosophical misinformation laid down on earth by the brother of the serpents, one of the deadliest notions is the perverse concept of only one God. Naturally, this system excludes and raises its defense against any person or group that doesn't believe in the concept of one God. Billions of people on Earth have killed innocents, and others lost their lives, repeatedly, in the countless religious wars fought between opposing only one God on Earth. What better mechanism to promote warfare and chaos between the prison inmates than the perpetual war between only one? This brings us to the next question. Who is Krishna? From hearsay, Krishna is supposedly the 8th reincarnation of Vishnu. However, nothing is more contradictory to the truth than that. Krishna is none other than one of the old empire's operatives assigned on Earth. Furthermore, the Bhagavad Gita contains numerous quotes from Krishna, and some of them, unfortunately, were hypnotic quotes found in the occult operation that was used to brainwash EBs with lies after death. Who is Shiva? Several gods were established during the religious warfare between the old empires and the Domain. These deities shared no relations, and their main purpose on Earth was fighting the great religious war. Shiva was a member of the Death sent on Earth to help the Domain wipe out the old empire. Who is Ravana Vimanas? This came about when the Domain search party traced and found the signature of the commanding officer Aduk, who was the top-ranking soldier in charge of the 3,000 lost personnel. During the search, the Domain's team discovered that Commander Moloch oversaw and supervised the vital electronic recycling stations, or quartz screens, around the Earth. These are the hidden electronic stations that capture an EB upon the death of the physical body, then induce amnesia, and redirect confused souls back to Earth to inhabit new physical bodies. While the Deaf made this discovery, Commander Moloch detected telepathic attempts at communication between the Deaf missionaries and commanding officer Aduk. In response, the Bots officer led an elite fight group from the old Empire base on Mars to hunt down the Deaf team. A fierce pursuit and a series of battles followed, ranging widely across the solar system space around Earth. Sightings of the military spacecraft used by the Deaf and the Bots, whom humans called Vimana, are recorded in the Mahabharata, ancient religious text of India. Ravana frequently inhabited human bodies on Earth to indulge in decadent passions and became infamous for his abusive sexual exploits and other cruel excesses. In the following images, we will attempt to show you the establishments of the old empires set up on Earth. These buildings or structures were seemingly erected overnight since the masterminds carefully concealed traces of the operation. They wanted to make sure Earth EBs held them in awe and in turn, helped them appear immensely mysterious. If you look closely at these sites, you'll notice similarities in their structure, for instance, blocks of rocks that do not resemble anything artistic or bear any spiritual significance. The Brother of the Serpent built construction sites to serve their military needs in Aksum, also called Abyssinia, in Ethiopia. The sites were excavated and erected using the same technologies found in Pumapunku and Tiahuanaco. The enormous stone obelisks found there are the tallest single pieces of stone ever quarried and erected in the ancient world. The tallest of the monoliths stood at 33.3 meters tall and weighed 500 tons before it fell and shattered into 6 pieces. Likewise, the stone quarry site at Baalbek in modern Lebanon is littered with enormous stone blocks, carved with the same precision and style, indicative of the Brother of the Serpent's operation. The Deaf missionaries assigned to the first exploration of planet Earth discovered that Brother of the Serpent Inspector Mastema was in charge of the covert intelligence operations for Earth. Inspector Mastema is an EB who supervised the construction of a pyramid civilization in Egypt, as well as the building of gigantic stone monuments all over the world. These stone monuments serve no real purpose and are completely foreign to the native civilizations of Earth and the abducted. This construction operation began before the invasion of Galaxy 3793 by the Deaf, predating 15,000 BCE. The large blocks of indigenous stone, used for several projects, were excavated and transported by air to their respective construction sites. These usually consisted of massive blocks of limestone or granite measuring as little as 2 tons to massive loads that weighed more than 800 tons. Transportation across land, rivers, and oceans was accomplished using conventional spacecraft equipped with tractor beam generators. The builders relied on light beam generators for excavation and the formation of large blocks. Handheld electronic carving guns, such as those seen represented in the statues of uniformed work crews at Tula in the Hidalgo province of modern Mexico, were used to unearth smaller blocks. Two such devices, which had originally been made from metal, are shown being held by the workmen. The right-hand device emerges from a sheath or handguard and is lozenge-shaped with a curved lower edge. The left-hand, electronic blaster device is a carving tool but doubles up as a weapon. Local legends related that the gods of ancient Mexico had armed themselves with Zyacobal, fire serpents. These emitted burning rays capable of piercing and dismembering human bodies. In truth, the fire serpents are actually the laser electronic blaster devices used to carve large blocks of rock. The same structure of rocks can be observed by looking at the Stonehenge or Gate of the Sun. As we can see, the problem currently faced on planet Earth stems from the acceleration of advancement in technology plus the lack of mind control, which creates the possibility of humanity wiping itself out through weapons of mass destruction. Our problems lie in social and humanitarian issues. It's futile to rely on a scientist to save the world or the future of humanity. The hope for humanity's salvation comes from recognizing the creative spark originated by an individual EB as well as the collective work of other EBs, who continually create the physical and other universes. Every science will remain relatively ineffective or destructive to the degree that it omits or devalues the relative importance of the spiritual spark that ignites all of creation and life. If awareness of the immortal, powerful, spiritual self remains ignored, then humanity will remain imprisoned until the day it will self-destruct and vanish into oblivion. The facts defined by Earth beings have no regard for the source of creation. They only include the result of byproducts of creation. Conversely, science frowns upon the study of the mind and spirit because such creations are not measurable in the physical universe. Science is the religion of matter. It worships matter. We conclude that the study of creation without acknowledging the EB as the source of creation is futile.